Hey everybody, this is Tony Hibbard with the Assistant Band Director with another video for you today. And this one is a new take on practice records. Um, this was something I developed while I was doing grad school. I have my master's degree in administration, and one of the things we had to do was like SMART goal stuff. So I figured I would create something like this for one of my assignments, and it was something that actually stuck, and I used it for when I taught high school. I will say that I no longer use this method, but I know I've talked about this to a couple other people, and they were really interested in how I did it. So here's what we're gonna go over in this video. So I created this I made a Google form out of this. So each one of these is a different question. This kind of evolved over time. And as I'm going through the questions, I'll go over, why some of these have word counts and stuff like that. But it starts off, they had to do this each week. And for some of the questions, I had mine due on Thursday of each week because without fail, somebody would forget, and they still had Friday to turn it in. But certain ones had to be had word counts at the end of each answer, and I told them to put them in parentheses for each section that required a word count. And then I had to have certain infractions, and pretty much with most of this, it was just following directions. If they did everything the way they were supposed to, they got 100. If they missed anything, then we went from there. So the infractions, the goal was not measurable. So before I introduced this, I explained what measurable goals were, and I told them, if a student teacher who had never heard you play anything before had to listen to you do your assignment, they could tell whether you met your goal or not. It has to be something concrete. It's a yes or no, you got it or you didn't get it. Simply playing a scale better or playing an instrument better is not measurable, so therefore they would get points off for that. The word counts, it needed 50 words. There's 5 points off for each one of those, and there was 3 of those, so they could lose a total of 15 points for that. For those same 3, they had to have a word count written in, so it was 15 up to 15 points off of that, and then 10 points off for each school day until it went down to a 0. And unfortunately, quite a few kids took that all the way down to a 0. So they had to put their name, had to put their date or the date they were filling it out. And then this first one was pretty much just for me. How many hours and minutes did you practice? Did you honestly practice? And if you know your students well enough, you know exactly who's practicing and who is not. So the way this was set up was I created, it's called the game plan, which is pretty much the same thing as a SMART goal. I just had to use it for my assignment for grad school. So set goals, that's the G, and then action A, monitor M, and then we have 2 sets of E. So it's game, E, plan. But the first one, what do I want to accomplish this week? Be specific and concrete. So again, this had to be a measurable goal. And just for the record, administrators love this because I went over this during my interview and with a couple of my evaluations for in the classroom because this counts as writing, even though they're typing it up. So if your evaluation, students have to write, this can cover that. And then take action. What steps do I need to meet my goal? And again, be specific and concrete. If they're wanting to learn how to do a scale, obviously they need to know the right notes. That would be one of the steps. Start it off slower, build up the tempo, however. Monitor, are the steps that I am taking helpful in meeting my goal? Yes or no, and explain. So it's kind of a trial and error process because not everything works every time. So I just want them to explain that to me. And the action one, backing up just a minute, they have to add a word count here. Because what I did when I first started doing this, they'd set their goal and then I'd go, what steps do I need to meet my goal? And they'd say practice. Okay, well, I need you to elaborate a little bit more than that. And then for the monitor, are the steps I'm taking helpful in meeting my goal? Yes or no, and explain. When I started this, it was just, are the steps that I am taking helpful in meeting my goal? They would just write yes or no, and that would be it. So again, elaborate with that. Evaluate, have I met my learning goal? Yes or no, and explain. And then extend, how will this goal make me a better musician? So this is kind of going beyond, the critical thinking, going into a little bit deeper thinking process. Or what do I need to do differently next time to achieve this goal? Okay, so if their goal was to create something or to play something incredibly fast or, whatever, and they completely did not meet that, here's where they could kind of fix that. Okay. Now, one of the things that I liked about doing this was if a kid could not practice at home, they could still do this assignment because they would still have to set a goal. They would have to tell me how they would practice it. For monitor, are the steps that I'm taking? No, because I haven't had a chance to practice, and then they could go into that. And then if they met their learning goal, no, because they weren't able to practice. So if a kid had a bad week, my kids personally are in dance. There's a couple tech weeks throughout the year where there's just no time to practice. So they would fill this out, and if they still did everything correctly, they would still get 100 as long as they met all this criteria here. Okay, so that's kind of the big picture for that. Okay, now where this can come in handy, and this is all, if your administration is really data-driven, which most of them are, if your administration really likes kids writing, which most of them are, this is where you can really, really impress them. Okay, so with any Google form, you can check out the responses. Okay, so I am going to scroll down past the kids' names. So you can see how, all the responses for each question. And here's where the goals, and we can just go through. I want to be able to play all of our pet band music. Okay, that's not really measurable. I would like to be able to play my F scale, 2 scale. I would probably mean 2 octaves. I don't know what they were saying there. Here we go. I want to be able to play Jeopardy at 150 beats per minute easily. Okay, that's a little bit more measurable. So I think this was the first one this is 8:30, so this is still pretty early in the school year. Here's a good one. I want to be able to go through the concert B flat scale, double octave or 2 octaves in eighth notes at 125 beats per minute. Okay, so I could actually go through and tell the students, does that sound measurable? What about this one? Does this one sound measurable? So they can kind of see what measurable goals are and which ones aren't. And you can see who's practicing on the same stuff. So, all right, this student's wanting to work on their B flat major scale, and so is this one. So if you're having issues, here's somebody that can help you. They're working on the same thing. And then you can go through, see some of the kids are doing word counts. Some other kids figure out which is which, then practice. I'm glad, that's the action you're taking. And then with monitor, again, with the word count, yes, I can tell what each stroke is now, So this is kind of breaking down each one by question. Okay, are you meeting your goal? Yes, 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 yes. Okay, no. Okay, because not everybody is. And then extend, I can sight read better. My goal will make me a better musician by learning how to practice measures better. My goal would also help me. Okay, I'm not going to read all these to you, but you can kind of see their thought process while they're doing this. Are they understanding what a measurable goal is? Are they practicing right at home? Okay, if it's just they're practicing the same thing over and over at the same tempo, at the same speed, not really changing anything, now you can go through and kind of help them with what they're practicing at home. So all kinds of data you can pull from this. And if you are anyway familiar with Google Docs and the whole Google suite, you can create a spreadsheet from these. And I'll just create a new spreadsheet real quick here. So going back to this while that's loading, you can do it by question like this. Okay, and you can see all the people that have filled out their questions. So the first one was a summary, kind of lumps it all together. The second one goes a little more in detail. And then this one, you can actually do the individual, what they actually filled out. So you can see everything one right after the next. I'm pointing at the screen like you guys can actually see this, but this person in particular practiced, I'm assuming that's 45 minutes, not 45 hours. Want to be able to play the right role, ROLL. Middle schoolers are great. Figure out which is which, then practice. So I guess figure out which role is what. So obviously this student needs some help with how they're practicing, measurable goals, kind of the whole thing. So now this should have loaded. So now you can see everything, and this is a lot here, but you can kind of break down each, one kid practice 145 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour. Okay. So we've got all the goals here, so you can see them quickly at a glance. So lots of data, lots of information, and they would have to do this each week. Okay, now when I did this with high school, I had a group of like 40 people. So that was somewhat manageable in a week. And then when I moved to middle school, the program that I'm at now, has like 140 kids, 130 kids. And that ended up taking so much time, me having to go through all of these and read all of these. So I ended up, not doing this anymore. But if I can figure out a process to read through these quicker, I may return to this, because it was really helpful to see what everybody was working on, how everybody was practicing, and whether they were actually practicing stuff they needed to be practicing or not. Because I know one of those was play Jeopardy at 150 beats per minute. That's one of the pep tunes that we did. I hope they didn't spend an entire week just trying to learn how to play Jeopardy. So that's the practice records that I did. Again, your administrators will absolutely love this, and a lot of good things can come from this. You just have to, take what you can out of it. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know. If you've made it this far, please make sure that you have liked this video and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.